Welcome back to Phalafel, the most mentally stimulating and thought-provoking podcast in the entire world. If you want to disprove that claim, you can try. Send us fan mail showing us a podcast that's more mentally stimulating than Phalafel. I won't believe it. If you show me, I won't believe it. Anyways, today we had our longest episode. We talked about stoicism. We talked about time allotment. We even related the two. We talked about happiness optimization, time optimization, all these things. It was a great episode. And yeah, we hope you enjoy.
So Lohith,
Yo,
are you single?
being single is a social construct.
Okay, but are you single?
Yes,
Why are you single?
because I can't get a girlfriend.
And why can't you get a girlfriend?
I spend a lot of time on other activities.
A lot of time in other activities?
Right.
Right. So I was talking to my girlfriend.
Oh,
Yeah. Just a casual flex on you. And we had our first sort of argument. It wasn't like, I didn't get yelled at or anything. Because, we're both mature people.
yeah. How old are you?
I'm 17.
I love to see it.
She's also 17. And she said that me texting her once every 2 days is not enough. So, me recognizing that this was, in fact, a problem that would arise in our relationship, I took it upon myself to, start allocating my time in certain ways to where I could, be a better boyfriend. Right? And I think that sort of maturity is what we really need in all of our lives. And maybe, if you start communicating your feelings more, you would also potentially get a girlfriend in your life.
Potentially.
And, fix that fashion sense and start dressing a little more like me. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I need to ask you about another thing before, we get into the meat of the subject today. And that is going to be school. So before our amazing viewers get mad at us for bringing up such a generic topic, oh my God, pandemic podcast, school. Like, no. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. So I want to ask you about asynchronous school. Okay, I can't be the only one who just like tunes out of a class and just works on other stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like you do that too, right?
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Like what do you work on?
The thing is, right, certain classes I go in with the acknowledgement that I'm not going to pay attention. And it's not even in bad faith. It's because I think I can do more work just by working and not paying attention in that class. When you're in school, that's not an option, right? I mean, I could try to do work, but at the same time, it's very difficult to do that with the teacher. But when you're at home, you can really just do whatever you want.
Right.
And I understand now that time allotment, when you're at your own liberty, you have the liberty to, block yourself a lot easier. School takes up 6 hours of your day, and that takes a lot of your time blocking opportunities away. And now in online school, I'm able to, literally time block 2 hours in school. I'm going to do this homework assignment, and it's been very effective.
Right. And that's just a one way that we're kind of like efficient, like we're being more efficient in our lives. I remember when school first got, shut down back when we thought we just had an extended spring break for just 2 weeks. What they did is they just had office hours for our teachers, and we didn't have to log into any single class, and we just had to complete all the assignments by the end of the week, right? I was talking to a couple of my friends, and they said, I really wish we could go back to that model. And I was just like, initially, I recoiled at it. I was just like, these teachers working hard. But I was just like, wait, wouldn't it just make more sense to just have everything asynchronous except for like test days? And then just, have teachers, upload like online lectures, because they're going to give the lectures anyway. Why not just have them do it once instead of 6 times per day and then just have office hours, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of people argue that the in-class experience is invaluable, and classmates, social life, lunch, those amazing chicken tendies that you get at the lunch, invaluable. You can't get these. There's certain things about school that you literally can't get at home.
Yeah, but and in the terms of online school,
Yeah,
you're not getting any of those things either. So,
well, you don't think that collaborating with your teammates, doing group projects, meeting new people is important?
in the virtual world, that's very difficult to do. I know you've been in a scenario where your teacher says go into breakout rooms, and you're the only one with your camera on, and you start talking to them. Hey guys, how are we gonna split the work? You just get silence back.
No, but in real life.
In real life, I mean, of course, but we're not referring to real life.
So are you advocating that virtual school is better than online school?
I'm advocating that. Well, you just said the same thing twice. Is virtual school better than online?
Sorry, is better than is in person.
I'm saying in-person school is the best alternative, but then on top of that, and then the second best is completely asynchronous.
Oh,
And the worst possible option is what we have right now.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So here's where I'm going with this. I was talking to one of our friends, and we're going to go over his text messages later. But he texted me at like 5 a.m. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, like he's in Taiwan right now. So, that's probably like, afternoon for him or something.
Yeah.
He texted me at 5 a.m, and I was, up to my degenerate activities that, a young teenage boy does at late night.
Okay.
No, why are you laughing?
YouTube, Netflix.
Exactly. And he texts me, he says, I just realized how much of our life we're wasting.
I know. He told me the same thing too.
I know. So he said, we spend 1/3 of our lives asleep, right? Because 8 hours a day usually.
Right.
And then if you don't get 8 hours, you always, you crash on the weekends to make it up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that spending that 1/3 just chunk of our lives is just asleep, not doing anything? Is that conducive to achieving the goals that a normal human would set themselves to do?
I have a very strong opinion on this, and I've thought about this question before.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, the hustle culture, I used to listen to Ty Lopez. He was my guy, okay? Mm-hmm. Who needs 8 hours of sleep? And I honestly thought this. People who sleep a lot are just lazy, and it's a common notion.
Mm-hmm.
But I read a book by Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep.
Why We Sleep.
And you can also check out this. He has a great book, Why We Sleep. Matthew Walker.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the other guy, Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist. There comes this conclusion that sleep is very important. And for me personally, if I want to maximize my efficiency, my productivity, and achieve my goals at the best and fastest rate possible, it seems like sleeping is important for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you could make the argument that, okay, I'll sleep 4 hours a day.
Right.
I'll have 4 more hours to grind.
Mm-hmm.
I just find it unreasonable. The people that I know that do that, they just go on these huge long runs of no sleep and then they crash. I don't know anyone that's consistently getting, 4 hours of sleep and doing well.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, for me personally at least, sleeping 8 hours a day, 7 to 9, I generally get 6 hours to 7 hours, but just getting that helps me do the rest of my things in life.
Right.
And that time allocation is important to me.
Exactly. So I'm going to be sending you a link on Instagram in just a second. Mm-hmm. It's very contested, I will say, very contested statement that, you know Steve Harvey, Family Feud?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, I sent you that link on Instagram. Go ahead and open it up when you can.
I got it.
But Steve Harvey, he came under fire for these comments. Yeah, why don't you project it real quick?
Okay. Rich people don't sleep out. Yeah, okay.
People don't sleep 8 hours a day. We all live in this bubble. What you got to do to get the life that God wants you to have, you got to put more air in your bubble. You got to blow your bubble up. Expand yourself. Take yourself out your comfort zone. Do not live in your bubble. Put some more air in your bubble. If you stay in your comfort zone, that's not comfortable. Start putting some pressure on.
All right. I think we get the idea.
Yeah, so that video began with him saying rich people don't sleep 8 hours a day, right?
That's tough.
And Will Smith went ahead. There's a news article about it. Will Smith actually went ahead and denounced those words. He said, Steve Harvey's capping. You know what I'm saying? Like, so who do you agree with here? Is Steve right? You gotta start pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, working yourself harder.
Yeah.
Or is Will Smith right, saying you can take care of?
I 100% agree with Will Smith. At the end of the day, nobody cares about how hard you work.
Okay.
Nobody cares. Okay, and it's a hard lesson to accept. What people care about is results. What people care about is how smart you work and how well you can get results. Now, if that requires you to work hard, that could be, something commendable. But the smartest workers, they're working efficiently, they're working smart. And working smart doesn't necessarily mean you're not sleeping 8 hours a day. If you look around, the most famous people are sleeping, and their success is not necessarily because they're in the gym at 4 a.m. They woke up at 5 a.m. and they're grinding till 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. They're doing intermittent fasting. They're doing all these things. Sure, you're working hard, and I agree with expanding and going out of your comfort zone, putting yourself through discomfort. I've done that before. I've woke up at 3 a.m. to just study, see how it is, and just, push my mind past that. But it's not sustainable. And, if I'm not getting results, nobody really cares. They only care about, how efficiently and how smart I'm working, which is in a way what Will Smith is trying to get at.
Okay. I think most people would agree with that sentiment, but I feel like I can also see the perspective to what Steve Harvey said, where sometimes when you're just beginning that grind, you got to make sacrifices, no matter what.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time on a weekday where I've gotten 8 hours of sleep in one night. My sleep schedule was so messed up.
Yeah.
I get maybe 5 hours of sleep, like 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. or 4 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Jeez.
Like, no, it's bad. There's been days recently where I've only gotten 2 hours of sleep before school, or 3 hours of sleep. I'm going to bed at 6:30 a.m. School starts at 9:40. Oh man. But
yeah,
like what I'm getting at here is, although, what Steve is encouraging is, as you said, an unsustainable lifestyle, he's also just telling you how it is, that you got to make sacrifices for your personal health in order to, reach the desired goals you want. Now,
well,
that's a flawed system, but that's just the way it is.
Perhaps it is the way it is. But again, the people who are not sleeping are not working efficiently. And look, I know a lot of people that, they do excessive work. Our friend in Taiwan.
Yeah.
We love him. But it seems like he does excessive work just for the fact to do work, just for the notion that he's pushing himself past anyone else. And at the end of the day, to be blunt, nobody cares about that, right?
Yeah.
I love that he does that. And I totally, support working hard. But there's a way to work hard. There's a way to work smart and work very hard working smart. And that should be the goal. It's not just to be work hard to just work hard. Let's say you're starting a company. It doesn't require you to sleep. Let's say at a certain point in your company, you're well off enough that if you work 6 hours a day, you got everything you need to get done. And the next 2 hours, you could just be bugging people. You could just be going extra, doing random things that you don't need to be doing. You could just be resting. And that rest can be more productive for the next day, the next 6 hours. I think it's very important that we rest to work better. Resting does not get in the way of working hard.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. And, that's something that a lot of people do forego. Because what happens is that some people, let's just say there's two sides to it, right? We got the Smith side, we got the Harvey side, right? A lot of people, they take it to the extreme, one or the other. They don't go to the middle, which I think the healthy medium is. Right. Because the proponents of the Smith side, they use, oh, I'm so tired. I don't have enough time to work, or no, I need my rest. They use that as an excuse and they get complacent.
Right.
People on the Harvey side, they work so hard, they work themselves to death, and then they wonder why they're only able to get like 3 math problems done in 2 hours. Because they're not, their brain literally is not functioning.
Right.
People fail to realize that there's times for when you need to grind, sweat yourself to death. Not literally. And there's other times where you just need to chill. The thing is that that failure of time allotment there leads to what I like to call burnout. And burnout, it's a fairly common term, but I think the best way to define it in this scenario would just be the complete inability to do work whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's very common in students. You know, a lot of people, they'll know something's coming up. They literally cannot finish it. And a lot of the students with high standards, they'll somehow finish it before the deadline because it's literally they have to, right?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, what we're trying to get at here is the philosophy of time allotment.
Yes.
Do we live our life in a series of highs and lows of, you know, work effort and then rest? Or do we live a life of sustained effort that leads to gradual growth? Now, me personally, you know, just comparing us, I'm a very sustained guy. I sleep 7 hours a day, 10 p.m. generally every day. I wake up at 5 a.m. You, on the other hand, I don't even think you sleep. I don't even know what you're doing ever. I asked him to come on a podcast this day. Somehow he didn't sleep for 3 days. Okay. Like, I don't know. Okay. But,
hey man, it was a rough week. It was a rough week.
Yeah. And it's usually due to a girl for some reason, but you know what? We move. Okay. I understand. But you know, it seems like there's a lot of people that I know in Doherty Valley, very competitive school, that go through this super hard grind phase and then they rest.
Yeah.
And it's not even a healthy rest. It's literally a burnout that we just, you know, we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we think about life and as a very long-term thing, do you think that, you know, grind and rest is better than the gradual, okay, I'll work a little today, I'll work a little tomorrow, I'll do that and that?
I've actually tried both models. There was, believe it or not, there was a period of time where I actually did have my life together.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, for about a week.
Maybe we should go back to that.
No, I hated it.
Oh.
And let me tell you why I hated it. So for me, okay, let me just give you some context, right? So I have a very variable schedule. I don't like to adhere to schedules because I feel like they're very constraining. And whenever I want to do something and it confines with my schedule, I tend to just go with my gut feeling and then my entire schedule goes out of whack, right?
Yeah.
I'm a very impulsive person. So I can't live to a schedule like that. So the reason I'm stating I do not like that gradual model, even though it possibly could be better. I'm very open. Like, honestly, like if I had to give advice to like a younger kid, I would say go with the gradual model. But the reason I'm more of that rest, burst type of person is because when I'm in the zone, things just go and they go fast.
Yeah.
And some days I just don't feel like working. And then if I even miss one day of just like work, then I have to work double as hard the next day, which I don't have that capacity to do.
Yeah. And there's definitely here different strokes for different folks. I think a lot of people, they're good at, you know, burst. They're good at that. But they're also good at stroking it slow.
Yes.
They're good at taking their time. They're good at gradually doing things. And, you know, to say that there's one good way, you know, a lot of like productivity books, they'll go on about rigid schedules, rigid structures, all these things. I've been over it. And every time I try and do a rigid structure, it just falls apart. I can't do it for more than a day. I'll buy a software that tracks my to-do list or stuff like that. And, you know, my life is sort of in chaos when it comes to tasks and stuff. But for some reason, it always comes to some sort of beautiful resolution.
Right.
And at some point, you know, maybe it's just part of me. That chaos is just part of who I am. Or maybe it's something I need to work on.
I don't think it's possible to be fully disciplined. But I think this is where we can possibly explore our first philosophical topic of the day, which is it's a word that always gets me messed up.
Stoicism.
Stoicism. So why don't you talk about stoicism a little bit?
Yeah. Stoicism is a very, very popular concept in, you know, popular culture media. It's been, in my opinion, used too much to describe very simple things such as like, you know, don't yell at your girlfriend.
I don't ever yell at my girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of her.
Right. That's very good. No. The thing is, right? Okay. Zeno of Cyprus. He was a wealthy merchant who lost everything when he was shipwrecked in Athens. All right. This was in some 800, 300 BC. Okay. And this led him to originate Stoicism. The Stoics, people who follow Stoicism, believed that everything around them was cause and effect. Wow.
Wow.
We had an episode about this. We don't have free will.
Yes. You should check that out, by the way.
Yeah. They put a name to this rational structure of the universe, and they called it logos.
Yep. Not ethos, not pathos, but
logos.
Yes.
Stoics believe that although we can't have control over our environment, we can control how we approach things. Now, if we go back to our free will episode, we possibly have a disagreement with that.
Yeah.
Perhaps we can't control our emotions, our thoughts, our desires, our feelings.
Yeah. So just the sharp contrast here, we can't the lack of free will argues we don't have control over our environment. We don't have control over how we approach things. Stoicism says that the latter we do have control over.
Yeah. And perhaps the idea that we feel we do have the control over how we approach things is the only thing that really matters. We legitimately don't have control of the environment, but we feel like we have control over our reactions to those environments. Exactly. Right. And perhaps that's the only thing that matters. Stoics believed in pushing an ideal society versus being happy with where you are. Rather than pushing an ideal society, they believed in being happy with where you are.
Right.
And it doesn't mean they believed in passivity, but they believe that those who have virtue and self-control in themselves are the ones that can bring positive change in others. Now, this reminds me of Jordan B. Peterson, very famous guy on the internet, always talks about cleaning your room before trying to change the world. And I believe it was Slavoj Žižek who said this. What if your room is messy because of society?
Oh, wow. Tell that to your mom. That was a really corny joke. I apologize.
What if it is society that is making your room bad? Perhaps through lines of oppression, lines of wealth inequality, sex, gender, racial discrimination, all these things. Now, that framework doesn't make sense, whatever Jordan Peterson said, because how can you fix yourself and then fix society if society is what's creating the problem in the first place, right?
Right.
And that is sort of my first, thought when I read this. They believe that those who have virtue and self-control in themselves are the ones that can bring positive change in others. Can we bring positive change in others even if we don't have ourselves fully checked? And people always like love yourself before you love others.
Yeah. What?
Can you fix society if you don't have your room fixed?
I think, obviously we shouldn't take it in a literal sense, but I think what he means by, having your room fixed, having your own life in order, right?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting question. It's like do as I say, but not as I do.
Right.
When I think about wanting to change the world, I feel you should have a certain level of competency around you. That doesn't necessarily mean having every single aspect of your life in order, because I don't think that's necessary. I have personal problems too. I am not a fan of school.
Yeah.
Right? Despise is a strong word, but we're getting there. I think. Let me adjust this mic real quick. I think as long as you have your life together to a certain degree, to where you are satisfied with your daily expectations.
Yeah.
Dude, this mic does not want to cooperate with me. As long as you're able to reach those, certain expectations that you have set for yourself, and you're able to wake up in the morning without, any sort of mental burden keeping you down, then yeah, you can go ahead and pretty much just do whatever you want.
So you have to have a degree of competency, but you don't have to be Buddha to criticize the world.
Yeah.
I agree with that. There's no way we can all be perfect people. And if we can't criticize society when we're not perfect people, then who can?
Yeah, who can?
Yeah. Epicurus, he said that suffering stems not from the events in our lives, but our judgments of them.
Absolutely.
That's very true.
Absolutely.
Very true.
There was this one person who we both know, and she had a problem where all she would think about is how others perceived her.
Yeah.
She probably still has this problem. And for that reason, she tends to suffer a lot mentally. She gets, you know, sadness due to that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single way that any human can truly escape that pressure from society of not caring what others think. But you can get close to it. Like, for example, like, at least me personally, obviously, like, I think I would dislike it if my reputation was fairly bad.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I only rely on the opinions of, or I only truly care about others' perceptions of my family, like how my family perceives me, how you perceive me, how my best friend perceives me, how my girlfriend perceives me, and how my other best friend in Taiwan perceives me. That's 8 people.
Yeah. So you have a closed circle and you find confidence in those people.
Exactly.
Now, there's a quote, Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoics who picked up Zeno of Cyprus's teachings. He said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Now, clearly from an evolutionary perspective, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be accepted in society so we can reap the benefits of society.
Exactly.
Now, it doesn't always have to be that we worry what other people think about us, but rather we just worry what we think about ourselves. For example, there's this loophole where, let's say you do something bad.
Right.
You feel shame. Now, the fact that you feel shame, you start feeling shameful about that. Because if you believe you're a good person and you start feeling shame, that attacks your character that you're a good person.
Exactly.
And that makes you feel more shame. You get in this cycle of shame and shame and shame. Now, that original event was probably not that bad.
Right.
But the thought process and the judgments and all the things that led to, you know, your framework and schema of what was going on leads to utter suffering.
Exactly.
And this is why, have you ever meditated?
Yes.
Yeah. I think this is what a lot of meditation is trying to get at. It's trying to completely disconnect the event from the thoughts.
Right.
Meditation, you know, it's okay to have the thoughts. Just don't engage in certain thoughts, accept certain thoughts, be with certain thoughts, and just let them go.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of power to that.
Mm-hmm. And that sort of acceptance, I think, is very necessary. You know, there is this one moment. You ever stay up at night and you just think about like a super cringe moment that you had in your life?
Yeah.
And like, 2 a.m.
But you laugh at it.
You're just like, oh my God, why'd I do that? Why'd I do that?
Yeah.
This happened to me. I was in 8th grade. And I got these new biking gloves because I used to bike to school every day. I thought they looked so cool because they're fingerless gloves. And I watched a lot of like MMA and pro wrestling.
Okay.
So I wore them every day. And so I walk up to this girl I liked. No way. And I held out my hand, which had the glove on it. And I said, "Hey, you want a fist bump?" And she looked at me in my eyes.
Yeah.
And she said, "I'm not fist bumping you while you have that glove on."
That's tough.
And
yeah.
oh my God, dude, I hated that moment. But I think it's definitely that sort of self-acceptance and self-awareness that you kind of need in order to transcend life. Now, I want to move on. We can revisit stoicism maybe later, but I do want to bring up something which I think is very important. So we went over Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We went over Erikson's stages of development on our podcast about death. So I'm not going to go too much into it. But if you do want to learn about that, please check out our podcast on death. But just for conversation's sakes, why don't you just pull up a Maslow's graphic up there? Just open a new tab, or you can just do that too. Okay.
Yep.
So we can see self-actualization, esteem, love and belonging, safety needs, physiological needs, right? You ever think about why midlife crisis happens? Why, your middle-aged dad suddenly, wants to pick up ping pong and, he wants to start, tending to the garden, even though he's never showed interest in that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually self-actualization in the moment right there. It's the human brain thinking that we don't have that much time to achieve the things that we want or achieve the legacy that we might have. I think that ties back to our original topic of time allotment, which is, can we self-act, or like, I think the end goal of most humans is to reach that degree of self-actualization. So this is where, and you asked me before the podcast, how are you going to tie stoicism into time allotment? This one's going to happen. Okay.
Okay.
So self-actualization
Here for it.
Is to most people, at least my perception of it, the goal of human life, to find your purpose. And you could disagree with that, but for the sake of argument, let's just pretend it's true.
Okay.
So the reason I wanted you to talk about stoicism is because the underlying philosophy of stoicism is to take things as they come and optimize it for yourself.
Right.
You have control over your reaction to sleep or not. You have control over your reaction to succumb to your exhaustion. Wouldn't it be a good idea to figure out the bare minimum amount of sleep you need to function? Apply the philosophy of stoicism to your life, where, okay, I have a headache, but I want to get this done. I would rather get this done. Or the cons of having a headache does not compare to the pros of getting this done.
Absolutely logical.
Yeah. And it's somewhat, obviously, it's a little physiologically unhealthy, but
it's logically the best way forward to your goal.
Exactly.
Now, we're not logical creatures, Shrutik.
We are.
You're definitely not. But it is the goal of stoicism to become purely logical, right? Mm-hmm. To be purely calm and take a logical approach to everything, to understand you have emotions but not engage in irrational emotions. Now, if you think of everything logically, do you think you can think of happiness logically? Okay, I'm going to spend 2 hours with my friend here and then 45 minutes with my friend here, and then I'm going to block this friend on Snapchat. That will maximize my happiness. Do you think is a formulaic way to these things? Because, using your logic, that would have to be true in order to, use that method.
If you really think about it, everything is formulaic. Everything you do is formulaic.
Now, okay, I got to disagree with that. So I agree that we can put ourselves in situations that can breed things like happiness and emotions, and that is formulaic. However, we can't really understand our emotions, why they come, no free will. We don't really know our desires and our feelings. So we can have formulas for putting ourselves in situations to do that. Like, I'll put myself in a relationship to become happy.
Right.
But I can't necessarily equate happiness with some sort of action that I do.
Why not?
For example, this podcast.
Right.
I can do this podcast and then in hopes of making me happy. But I can't necessarily do something and know it'll make me happy. Does that make sense?
So you're saying there's a variable chance of happiness being delivered once you complete a task.
Yeah, and the only thing we can do is put ourselves in situations for that variable chance. And that I can agree is technically formulaic.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying, right? Like, I'm glad you conceded to me. But I think what the more important thing to recognize is that, like, once again, I'm an impulsive person. I tend to just do whatever I want.
And it's very difficult to plan podcasts with you like that.
Yeah. But I think what's more important to recognize is that you need to maximize that percentage of potential happiness, right? Thing is, self-actualization is a combination of factors. It's a combination of achievement, it's a combination of purpose, and it's a combination of self-fulfillment. That's what I believe it to be. So you will never self-actualize if you are the richest man on the planet, but you are unhappy. You will never self-actualize if you are happy, but you haven't done anything in your life to benefit others or yourself.
Right. And the term self-actualize is sort of vague here, but It's sort of meaning like an ultimate goal,
Yeah,
an ultimate state of happiness.
exactly. And I think that using the philosophy of stoicism to shut out the pain and simply proceed on with your goal allows for self-actualization earlier in life because you will reach your goals theoretically quicker. Now,
The thing is, right? Do you know your goals?
you could have them clearly defined. I know my goal.
But do you really? Okay, so there's this notion of your purpose, which can often be tied to self-actualization. Your purpose.
Right.
It's almost like this mystical, spiritual thing. Now, why do we have to have one purpose? And why? How would we ever know that that's truly our purpose? There's this. I read something where a lot of times, we'll think something is our purpose because we start it and then we start to enjoy it.
Yes.
Well, and I think that's definitely true. We don't have this magical purpose that we find like we're just genetically predisposed for certain things. I think we start things, we enjoy them, and we label it our purpose.
Right.
Now, we could have multiple things we enjoy. I don't think sticking to one purpose is necessarily the healthiest way to live. We could have, we could do our job, we could have our family, we could have our school, we could have all these things, right?
Right.
And how can you use stoicism logically to pursue a goal that you don't even know what it is?
I mean, that's based off the assumption that you won't ever know what your goal is. For example, like let me use myself as an example, right? I don't know what the steps I need to take are to achieve my. Okay, so let me just tell you my goal first. My goal is to have my name written down in a history book somewhere for a good reason. So, what I plan to do in order to achieve that goal is to optimize my own personal skill set and use it to service other people, and hopefully make an impact that way. Right? Now, I have no idea whether I'm going to achieve that goal, right?
Right.
But I work towards it almost every single day. And I constantly strive for my own personal improvement. And that doesn't necessarily mean academics. That means interpersonal relationships. That means that means like mental perseverance. And that means allowing myself to grow and meet other people. Right? That's how I potentially can make an impact on other people's lives. Will this guarantee my goal or my goal of going down in history books? No, it doesn't. But it substantially increases my chances.
And that's all you can really do.
And that's all you can really do. You need to play the odds in your favor. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And it goes back to our free will thing where we can't really control if we're going to be happy. We can only put ourselves in situations that could potentially make us happy.
Exactly. Now, I want to take it back to the idea of time allocation. I want to just bring us back to the beginning of the podcast where we talked about this social tax is what my friend called it. So if you go on our doc and you scroll to page 3, you're going to see a screenshot that I put there. Just go ahead and project that screenshot if you could.
We can't project the screenshot, but basically the idea is...
Here, I'll read it out.
Okay.
Censored. Assuming a human needs 8 hours of sleep per day, 24 total, 8 sleep, and then 8 your 9 to 5 jobs, you have 8 hours remaining. We'll just have our editor censor this part out. We'll just put the screenshot there and we'll have him censor out the cuss word. But it's never just that, is it? You're not gonna be sleeping just 8 hours. You're gonna have to factor in waking up, daily routine, commute, etc., plus cooking, cleaning, other life chores, and biological functions like making Erickson happy.
Right.
So that's an average of 4 hours. Also, you're not going to be able to maintain just work all day. Your will drains and bam, you need to mentally rest, aka Netflix or some other leisure time. That's like another 3 hours. And then this conversation concluded with him saying, so if you think about it, we only have 1 hour a day which is completely free, where we do not have any obligations to our own mental state.
Well, he's obviously not factoring that those are his obligations, and that's what makes him happy.
Is it? Or
Okay, maybe not for him. He's
Is
not
he-
doing so hot. But he has talked to me about this, and that he genuinely feels like he has no time to do anything because he has all these grand dreams, all these things, but he's held back
hey,
by
let's
school.
let's take that off.
Yeah, but he's held back by school. He's held back by family, sleep. He literally feels like he's held back by sleep. And it's a very real concern for people who want to do everything in the world, which this guy really does want to.
Yeah.
And most people would quit school. But his standard is that he's going to be a good student. And
Yes.
he can't do both. And this is a dilemma. That's very it's an important life decision.
Exactly.
Do you want to just pursue everything and do kind of half and half, kind of like be okay at this, be okay at that? Or go all in and allocate all your time into one activity that you'll be the best at for a long time? And that's come back to the philosophy of time allocation.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? We always preach this idea about being free, being able to do whatever we want,
Right.
right? But who knew that the very system that is supposed to empower us secretly holds us back this entire time? I was thinking about this, and I'm just gonna be blunt. I do not like school.
I agree with you, man.
I hate waking up for it.
I love my teachers. I love everything about school. I just hate school.
Yeah. I think my teachers are great people, genuinely. But here's where I think the school system goes wrong. It doesn't reward students for being passionate. It rewards them for being like a drone to the system. I'm going to be honest with you.
All right, elaborate on that.
I don't consider myself a good writer. But I've never had less than a 97% in English in any of my school years
Yeah.
ever. And I have now had letter grades for 5 years.
Yeah.
I do not consider myself a good writer. I still don't fully understand the grammar of the English language.
Yeah.
I still don't know the difference between who, and whom, and whomst, and all of that. I don't understand that difference.
Yeah.
But you know what I do know? I do know.
How to get a good grade.
I know how to write an essay that my teacher is going to read. And she's going to be like, wow, Shrutik is so smart.
Yeah. It's true. It's very, very true. And any student understands what you're saying right now.
Yeah. I know how to pass. I don't consider myself smart, though.
So you're saying that school takes away from the genuine. So there's people who go into school, for example, AP Psychology. I know you love AP Psychology.
Yes.
And they take these elective classes to actually genuinely learn and love the learning of that subject. I love history, but APUSH is not very conducive to having fun with history.
Exactly.
Reading a textbook that's literally takes up 4 hours to read one chapter, it's not very conducive when I could just watch a crash course video and essentially learn everything that's necessary in that.
Exactly.
And so it seems like school is not an effective use of time, perhaps.
Yes.
And that maybe that's not true for everyone, but I think in the case of for us, it is very true.
Yeah. And I want to go back to the point about electives. I was discussing with my college counselor. She doesn't, not like the school counselor, but my college counselor, right? And I wanted to take, and this is my freshman year, or going into freshman year. I was deciding my courses that I was going to take for all 4 years of high school. And obviously, things changed. But when I was discussing this, I remember profoundly hearing something. And I think this is what's wrong with the system. She said, if you want to take classes that you want to have fun with, take in either freshman year or senior year. Do not take it during your sophomore and junior years, because that's what colleges are going to look at the most, your GPAs for those years. I have to complete my fine arts and my PE credit, and I can't do that during my junior or sophomore year because I didn't want those unweighted classes to drag down my weighted GPA.
Yeah, and that seems to be the greatest priority for everyone.
And I thought that was so depressing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow. But what I also realized, what our friend in Taiwan told me at least, he views school as
A waste of time.
well, a waste of time. But I was getting more to the idea of a social tax. Adults, or the tax of society.
That's interesting.
You have to give up your hours to society in exchange for freedom. What's your take on that?
Well, yeah, you see that with jobs. Now, perhaps that's not a good thing if you're socialist, communist, but you do have to give up your body and your physical body, your time, to operate in a society. That is 100% true. Now, that might not necessarily be a bad thing. We can give up our bodies to society so society helps us back in return. In the case of our friend in Taiwan, it's a very bad thing because that social tax is so great that it holds him back from everything he would like to do. Now, in our friend in Taiwan's case, his social tax is something that's undesirable. It's something that he doesn't like to do. And that's why he calls it a tax. A lot of people, they love going to school. And that they wouldn't necessarily call that a social tax. They would just call that a social
Obligation.
necessity, these kinds of things. But it could be a good thing. Now, what if you made your social tax a good thing? What if you started loving your job? What if you started loving your kids who take up the majority of your time? Now, you would stop considering these social taxes and these obligations just as part of your life that makes you happy.
But wouldn't in that case you wouldn't label it as a social tax, obviously, but then you would be voluntarily giving up your freedom.
Right. Well, in every aspect, we are definitely socially taxed.
But in both scenarios, you lose those hours.
Right. But those hours are used for things that make you happy. And if you're going to have a social tax regardless, you have to work. Then work for something that makes you happy. And I understand why this is very hard because I personally do not do this in any way. I don't take classes that make me happy in any way. And even if I know 100% that's the right thing to do for my life, and I talk about this philosophically, objectively with you, I still cannot get myself to do it.
Exactly.
And that's very common among students. They can't get themselves to do things that they know are good for them.
I can't imagine, or I can't count the number of times I'm just like, I'm going to save the world. I'm going to get my stuff together.
Yeah.
Next day, I wake up at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh.
Maybe next week. Like it's a cycle. It's
Yeah.
really hard, and it's fine if it's hard. But even if I know that taking AP classes, I have a friend. He's a friend of mine. He's a swimmer. We have the same exact schedule.
Yeah.
Except he takes 0 APs, and I'll take like 3 to 5.
Right.
Now, he's happier than me, 100%. He's also faster than me, a lot faster than me. And although we generally work, I would say exactly the same amount of effort, he's better than me for various reasons, whatever. What I'm trying to get at is that he is living life. And although I know that he has chose a better lifestyle, I still go with the burden of AP classes and the social tax. Now, I do know some other people that, actually, I don't know anyone that doesn't take AP classes and works super hard on their own endeavors. I don't know anyone like that. It seems like working hard in a system is more, it's more enticing than working outside of a system that's very hard.
I mean, it all leads back to step 2, safety needs. You want that sense of security in your life, right?
Maslow's hierarchy, step 2.
And working within that system brings you that security. Because if you follow the traditional route, go through school, go through college, you're going to have a job, right? And that job will supposedly bring you stability. Now, I was thinking that's something.
What is it?
Social tax evasion. So before the IRS comes after me, it's a figure of speech. So we allocate these responsibilities in our life as quote unquote social taxes, correct?
Yeah.
And that's of course if you dislike doing it. If you like doing it, then it's just an activity for you. But if you dislike doing it, it's a social tax. Now, the concept of me tuning out whatever my math teacher is saying in that current moment, and instead working on my own company or my own nonprofit or whatever I'd like to work on in that current moment. Duolingo, I'm learning Hindi.
Nice.
I'm on my 173-day streak. Respect, yeah. But regardless of whether I work on it, I'm still technically showing up to class. I'm getting my attendance points. I'm doing whatever, right? And at the same time, I'm able to work on what I love. So,
yeah, there's a lot of people that they have to that you can't just give up everything, become like some social recluse and just do whatever you want, right? It's not feasible. You'll just die. What you have to do is maintain. You would have to do this. You'd have to maintain some sort of, let's consider your social tax your heartbeat. Okay, I have to work my job. But you can try and evade that social tax through certain methods, such as working more efficiently so you can leave work quicker, or depends on your sort of job, but certain methods. And then you can start to expand on the stuff you love to do.
Exactly. So I think this brings us to the key takeaway of what we can begin exploring now, which is you can pursue your own sense of freedom and attempt to expand that supposed 1 hour that our friend in Taiwan said that you only have freedom. Try to expand that hour of freedom by even minutes, and it can yield great results. But at the same time, that does not excuse your responsibility from the obligations that you currently have.
Yeah.
So I feel like this ties back to a lot of the themes that we explore on almost all of our podcasts, which is once again just balance. The recognition and the self-awareness that you require in order to achieve your goals and potentially self-actualize. We were just talking about stoicism, philosophy, stuff like that. But, luckily we had to allot some time to this advertisement right here. My name is Shrutik and Lohith. I am a co-host, and I would like to proudly introduce our sponsor for this episode, Next Generation Nations. As with all of our other episodes, Phalafel Podcast does not reflect the views of the corporation, but, they've thankfully allowed us this platform to have us share our beautiful thoughts with you. Next Generation Nations is an org which offers social entrepreneurship opportunities for high school and college students. So be sure to check them out at ngn.org, where you can charter your own chapter, get your own, life started. You can maybe, start a business with a potential wife and kid, and, have it take off to the moon.
Damn.
So yeah, check us out, ngn.org. You can check us out at Next Generation Nations on Instagram, the official NGN on Twitter. You can DM our Instagram with any questions. And yeah, back to your regularly scheduled program.
Well, one second. For anyone that's just a bad person, me included, just do the NGN. Just go to NGN. It could be your first step to being a better person. Women like good people, I think. I honestly have no idea. I wouldn't know, but that's what I've heard. And if you're a bad person, DM me.
Yeah, he likes bad girls. But yeah, now we're going back to your regular scheduled program.
Yep. So let's say you have an hour. Would you spend it with your girlfriend or work on your job?
I would definitely spend it with my girlfriend.
Right. And this comes back to our conversation about optimizing long-term happiness.
Yes.
I believe that happiness should be a priority. And I think that when I was younger, a lot of times I would think that I would get happy later because something would happen. And we've had a podcast about this, happiness.
Yes.
And if happiness is not a priority now, then it's essentially never a priority because you can only live in the now.
Yes.
So in that situation, I personally would like to allocate my time to maximize my happiness. And let's bring this back to the philosophy of time allocation.
Yes.
Should we optimize our time to maximize for happiness? Or should we optimize our time to pursue goals?
Well, I mean, let me give you an example from yesterday, right? Yesterday we were going to record a podcast, and I showed up half an hour late because I was with my girlfriend. Those extra 30 minutes that I spent with her was so much more worthwhile than watching this clown lug around equipment.
Okay, but what about this? If you missed those 30 minutes and you couldn't have recorded today?
Fair enough. But at the same time, when I compare the benefits to the losses, right? I see myself more satisfied with spending those extra 30 minutes with her as opposed to potentially recording 2 podcasts this weekend as opposed to 1.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get at here is that everything is almost like a cost-benefit analysis where you have to just view how much long-term satisfaction this will give you. So in that vein, I'd like to propose to you this question. I know you got excited when I said I was going to propose to you.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, you're never going to. No, I'm playing. Don't worry. We'll find someone for you soon.
Yeah.
I have such a straight face. That was a joke. You can laugh.
Oh.
Can you play the laugh track?
Nah.
No, play the laugh track. It was funny. Play the laugh track.
No, we don't do that.
Please.
We're a mature podcast. All right, well, what's your question?
My question to you
I'm
is...
intrigued.
My question to you is, if you had the choice of picking one polar extreme, maximizing efficiency vs maximizing happiness, and as we revisited earlier, you need to find a balance between those two and to self-actualize. If you had to pick one, what would it be?
To be honest, I don't know the answer. And I said I wanted happiness to be a priority for me. However, objectively, there's no reason why we need to be happy. I think there's people who live with great integrity, such as people like Nelson Mandela or Harriet Tubman. Perhaps they got happiness through helping other people, but they led through great suffering by pushing for something rather than staying complacent. And I think that as long as you live with integrity, perhaps happiness doesn't matter. Perhaps if you create a lasting impact, the fact that you are happy doesn't actually matter. Now, for me, I want to be happy. I think everyone should try and be happy because it's really all you can do here. But I can understand a life where happiness does not matter to you and you just want to create an empire.
Right.
Because objectively, there's no reason why we necessarily have to be happy or why we have to like being happy. Why don't we just live in darkness all the time? And we talked about this on our happiness podcast, which you should check out. It'll make you a little happy.
Yes.
Yeah. And that integrity, I think, is a deeper virtue than being kind or being happy or being nice. As long as you stay honest to your goal, perhaps happiness doesn't matter.
Wow. That was powerful.
That's what we do on this show, Shrutik.
Exactly. Falafel. But I mean, wow. I mean, okay, so that's a lot to unpack. But objectively, I think everything you just said was pretty much right on the head. We first explore this idea when we are ages 6 to 12. The idea of competence. I disagree with Erickson when he says that certain stages have to be bound to certain years. I believe at those ages, that's when we first begin exploring these concepts, but not necessarily we stop exploring them. Ages 6 to 12, you see industry v inferiority, and the virtue that we are exploring here is competence. Competence is the idea that you are able to do something, essentially. Industry v inferiority. An example of this is when a child begins, messing around with something new on the playground, starts messing around with a basketball for the first time. Not because they're actually interested in the basketball, but because they want to show that their peers that they are able to operate this if they chose to.
I see.
And this concept of proving yourself to defy society or to prove your excellence to society definitely carries past the age of 12. There are some adults who go out their way to perform certain actions just to prove to the world that they can. There's an example of this. Phillip Brooks or CM Punk. He was a professional wrestler who went to the mixed martial arts world because so many people said he couldn't do it. Obviously, he proved that he eventually couldn't do it. His MMA record is now 0-2. He lasted 2 minutes, 15 seconds in his first fight.
Right.
First round knockout, something like that. And he got beat up. But what's important though? He tried his absolute hardest. He worked every single day. He learned MMA. He practiced with the best trainers in the country. He got in shape. He made weight. He practiced every single day. And he gave it his 100%.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you about this because I genuinely want to find the answer. Mm-hmm. There's people like that. I used to, when I was younger, I would just tell myself like, okay, if I work my entire life and I don't, and I fail, that's okay, right? Because I did everything I could. Mm-hmm. But now, as I become older and more mature, I'm starting to think of a way to optimize and become more efficient.
Right.
Now, nowadays, a successful life to me is one that actually has results.
Okay.
Not just a series of tried efforts.
Right.
Now, CM Punk, I'm sure he worked very, very hard. Mm-hmm. But he didn't get his results.
He didn't.
And to a lot of people, that could be a very successful life. You did everything you could. But did you actually? Because did you work as smart as you could? Did you literally optimize in terms of intelligence, what you're allocating your time to? Not necessarily, okay, I'm going to optimize my body this way. I'm going to spend my every hour just running, conditioning. But instead, okay, I need to fix this technique, do this technique, but perfectly optimize yourself so that you create results. And that's two different ways of viewing success. Mm-hmm. Either, our friend in Taiwan, although he possibly views success as grinding a lot, I would say he'd be a much happier person if he was getting results.
Yeah.
But again, happiness is subjective. Perhaps you could tie your happiness to just grinding. And I personally, I think I felt that before.
I think definition of success is pertinent to where you are in life. CM Punk, before he entered the MMA world, was considered by many to be the best wrestler, sports entertainer in the world. Because of that, he can consider his MMA run a success because he gave it his all. But now, let's pretend he tried that as a pro wrestler when he was broke and didn't have anything.
Yeah.
I tried pro wrestling. I gave it my 100%, but I couldn't land that contract.
And no one really cares, right?
Would he consider that a success? No.
But he could. And all power to him if he does.
He could, but would he? He wouldn't because he needed it. He needed that result. He didn't need that. He didn't need a winning MMA record to continue living his life. But he needed that pro wrestling to pay his bills, to take care of himself. It was his only sustenance.
I see.
So I think in that vein, it represents what you consider success represents your current living situation, your current mindset in life. Our friend in Taiwan, the fundamental difference between him and I, is that my successes are based purely off results, and I will do anything in order to achieve those results. But I have my results clear-cut, defined, set in stone. I have my milestones set, and when I achieve that milestone, I tend to not go further unless I view it feasible to go further.
Whereas he is not very tied to his results. Rather, he just takes appreciation in the fact that he's working hard.
Exactly.
And I think there's beauty in both. But I think you're a happier person just because you do have more material results than him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's definitely a factor.
And it's definitely not about the materialism either. But it's just proving to yourself that I can do this. I can move to the next step. Less than a year ago, I consider myself very incompetent COVID had just started. I was fresh out of sophomore year. And, you know, with spending time with my classic Asian parents, I got to think about college, right? And as I began thinking about it, I realized I didn't have anything on my resume that I could offer outside of a good GPA, and that's it. I don't have any extracurriculars. I don't do any sports. I just, you know, stayed at home, studied, played video games. That's it. Thankfully, I was able to acquire a high-ranking position within NGN. And from there, I was able to build it into the international company that it is now, alongside Sanjeev Tanna, the founder. With that material success, or with that guidance that I received from my mentor Sanjeev, alongside the real world experience that I got while managing other students, I got a firsthand experience of that grind. There were days where over that summer where I just didn't sleep. Not because I had to not sleep, but because I didn't want to. Like, I was so excited about working that I did not value my sleep.
I see.
And every single little goal that I made, every single 9, 10, 20 page document that I finished detailing my plans about how we could scale up this company, every single time I finished one of those, my serotonin levels just jumped. And I could work and work and work and work. And because of that, I was eventually able to land the position of president for the whole joint. And because of that, I'm now able to work on something that I consider my passion. And that's how I'm going to, via that organization, that's how I plan to change the world. So I did have to grind, just like our friend Taiwan. But I knew when to cash it in, if that makes sense. I said, this is what I've done so far. Look at it.
So you knew when to appreciate how far you've gone.
Exactly.
Now, if you're truly living a life of grind, and I take this philosophy from David Goggins, the grind never stops. I believe in that. Whenever you go hard, you can always go harder. In terms of life, there's no reason to rest. You can always expand your mind, always seek discomfort, and it never stops. But, you know, we should allocate our time to appreciating some of the things that we've done. This brings us back to our happiness thing, where should we be complacent with where we are versus, you know, being upset with where we are and pushing further. And I'm happy that you're proud that you're president. And, you know, it's just an example of results. And results are a great motivating factor. I kind of want to bring this back to stoicism and how, to me personally, the ideal self is someone who's indifferent. And I'm not sure if this is necessarily what I believe in or not, but someone who's indifferent does not have to experience suffering, but they can appreciate happiness. Now, let me explain. If someone gives you a car, and if you buy a new car, and you're super happy, it's a rental car, you're super happy that you have the car, but it's going to be gone eventually. You start to focus on the fact that you have the car, and you start to really appreciate that happiness, right? Now, I think happy emotions are similar. You know, if you experience meditation long enough and you're able to dissociate yourself from your emotions, you can understand that you're happy and sit in that emotion and be very accepting of that emotion and take it in fully, because you know it's temporary, right? But if you're also indifferent in that same regard, you could choose to not engage with negative emotions.
Yeah.
And my friend, very smart guy, he sent me this message. He said, he strived for indifference and having no emotions. From the realization of no purpose in our external world we live in just lies. He said we should be able to live any way we want, and there's no real right from wrong if someone just fulfilling their urges / emotions. This comes back to moral subjectivity and all these topics. But I think he got this from an anime or something, but it says something that is supposedly the most constant / human thing is getting emotions.
Yes.
And if there's no good and bad, the only thing that we can stick to is being emotional and following our emotions.
Yes.
Now, I believe that our truth is the only truth that we can live. And I've said that before, right?
Uh-huh.
Stoicism falls on the idea that we should detach from our emotions and be purely rational creatures. And it's okay to have emotions, but it's not okay to engage with emotions that, hold us back from our logical steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in that same vein, do you think that emotions... Now, someone told me that, okay, so yeah, I had this phase where I want to be very masculine.
Mm-hmm.
I want women to look at me like...
What a man. Oh my God.
Oh my God. I bought a no feelings shirt.
You did do that. Yes.
I had no feelings, dog.
You had no feelings.
But the thing is, right? My friend,
You're running from your trauma.
Yeah. But nowadays, I'm all about breaking gender norms. I was uneducated back then. But nowadays,
who taught you that?
my beautiful friend Shrutik and Lohith.
Exactly.
But
just as a plug, you guys can check out my Instagram, Shrutik MK. This man when he first saw my Instagram, I'll pull it up. But no, the viewers need to enjoy this. Viewers need to enjoy this.
All right.
Hopefully, there's not anything sus on your Instagram feed,
except for only the idea of you.
Oh.
Look, but I went through a phase where I thought masculinity was rigid and it was important.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just scrolling Instagram, boom.
Yeah, look at
masculinity? Why do I need masculinity when I can look like that, dog? That is breaking gender norms at its finest, and I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Look at that. Look at that chain. Look at that chest.
All right.
Look at those lips.
But on a real note, what I'm trying to get at is that my other friend, he would tell me that we can maximize our emotions to pursue our goals.
Mm-hmm.
If we're really angry, we can focus that anger perhaps in our work. Yeah. Anyone that's been through a breakup knows that you can use that to fuel you into something great.
I really can't.
That's the only reason you're on this podcast right now, Shrutik. You've let the anger of breakups fuel you.
Hey man, I mean, real talk. Since we're just messing around right now, I did join this podcast as a distraction because I was going through some stuff, and then this man Lohith saved me.
Yes, sir.
He saved me. He said, "Why are you distracted by that nonsense?"
Yeah.
Hey man, we're gonna be the biggest podcast in the world, right? And that's why Phalafel is the most
mentally stimulating and thought-provoking podcast in the world.
Exactly.
But the idea, Stoicism says detach from your emotions. And I think I agree with Stoicism here that we can logically engage with our emotions. Again, if you get a happy thought, understand that it's temporary and engage in it. So be more happy about it.
Exactly.
But if you get a negative thought, let it go. Accept that it's with you and just don't engage in it.
Yep.
In the same way, we can be super logical about our emotions. If we can control them, perhaps through practices of meditation. No okay,
hey, we're gonna have to censor that.
Why? Okay, but there's these methods to detach from emotions. We can get onto that in a later episode about emotions. The psychology of emotions is also very controversial and debated. Mm-hmm. But what I'm trying to get at is that we can be super logical about our emotions and hence our time allocation.
Absolutely.
If we can literally engage with an angry thought, man, that girl. I'm angry, dog. I'm angry. When's the last time you told someone you're angry? If anyone asks you, are you angry? You say, no, I'm fine. All right, next, tell them I'm angry. I'm using this anger to become a better person. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, we've logically used our emotion of anger to pursue our time allocation and efficiently use it. So emotions are not inherently illogical.
Wow. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So, I think you pretty much just nailed it. So we went through a whole ton of stuff today.
We can go through more.
We can go through more.
Yeah. Okay. How about this, Shrutik?
Uh-huh.
I hope we don't get a midlife crisis.
Oh man,
We're doing all right here. We're doing all right.
Dude, if I have a midlife crisis, dude, just like
It's gonna be a crisis.
it's gonna be bad, bro.
It's gonna, yeah,
You're gonna see me with 5 tattoos on my neck,
yeah,
or sunglasses.
yeah,
What's up, man?
yeah,
Aren't you 40? Why are you still at the bar?
yeah,
What you mean, man? I'm 26.
yeah, bro. I'm still doing that podcast thing.
You know, the bartender
Yeah.
walks up to me. He's like, "What are you still doing here, man? I've seen you here 3 times this week."
I like this chair.
And then look, you know, a young man like myself, you're 50. You have gray hair. Go home, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad. You know, everything sucks. It's fine.
Exactly.
Who cares?
Oh my god, you know that's the first like line that I used on my girl.
Everything sucks.
No, I said I was just like, I said I know life sucks, so let me make yours better. For those of you who are listening to the audio version of this podcast, I am biting my lip.
Everything sucks, so you suck too.
No,
No, that doesn't work.
it doesn't work because that's an insult.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to shed my toxic masculinity, Shrutik.
Yes.
But I want to kind of get into the idea of productivity
Productivity,
and time allotment.
time allotment.
Every major productivity guru believes in chunking time, blocking your time.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, when you wake up and you have no schedule for time allotment, it's kind of scary because you don't know what you're going to do and you kind of just do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really scary. It generally doesn't work into anything productive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think it's a good idea to literally have a Excel sheet with a list of your friends and give them a score of happiness?
Yo, what?
Now think about this, right? We're being purely stoic. We're being
do you
logical.
have one? Do you have one?
Absolutely not. I'm going to make one right after this podcast. An Excel sheet of all your friends, first name, last name, happiness score 1 through 10.
Haven't filled out a Google form.
Yeah, and then you're going to do some calculus and you're going to optimize.
Oh,
The hours.
That's not calculus. That's algebra too. If it was calculus, I would not be failing right now.
Listen. We're going to optimize the literal how much time we spend with each person, how much time we can spend with each person, and what brings us happiness. In the same regard, we're going to put down hours of activities that bring us happiness. It's called a happiness Excel sheet.
A happiness Excel
What do you think about that? Perfectly allotting time to maximize happiness. Or do you believe in more? I know this, you could never do this. You just wouldn't.
Wait, no, but that actually sounds like a good idea.
It might be, but you wouldn't do it. Now, maybe it's because sometimes we just want to live in the moment. And that's what I'm trying to get at. I live in a constant state of chaos where there's deadlines swirling everywhere, but somehow I still get them done.
Right.
And that kind of brings me happiness, living in chaos.
Wow. So you're saying anarchy brings peace?
Anarchy well, I know a lot of people that just love anarchy. You know, some people, they just need to break stuff. And I'm totally here for it. They just need to get angry, you know? I'm totally here for it. Some people, they just need to riot, you know, they just need to lead an insurrection at the Capitol. They just have to. It's fine.
Just have to, you know?
Some people are angry.
It's fine.
You know, we only live here once. It's, you know?
Yeah, just you know, some people, they just need to become, you know, dedicated war criminals, man.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. You know, 100%.
100%.
But what they need is a happiness Excel sheet. They need the solution to all of this.
Yeah, the FBI watching us real close.
Yeah. Now, okay, this is just a theoretical proposal, and I'm asking what you think about it, because I find myself living more in the moment when I don't have time blocks, and I don't have the schedule, I sort of follow my emotions. And we talked about having integrity and honest toward yourself. And if all good and bad is subjective, then can following our emotions be the only thing that we really care about?
I think that you need to follow stressors as well. There's a saying, pretty common saying, can't be light without darkness, right? In that same way,
yeah.
I think it's impossible to perceive happiness
Without sadness.
without sadness. And as depressing as my A-push homework is, I will still do it because the satisfaction of knowing that I have completed this A-push assignment and I have roughly 12 hours and 42 minutes before my A-push teacher logs back in at 10 p.m. and updates my Google Classroom, I'll have those 12 hours and 54 minutes to enjoy. So in that same vein, pursuing happiness and blocking out any potential pain points is also not optimal, because then you will rob yourself of the definition of, the reason drugs are bad.
They are?
Yes, they are.
Interesting.
The reason drugs are bad is because when you do them, it's a release of dopamine in your brain, right? But as you do it continuously, your dopamine receptors begin to fail.
You build tolerance.
And you build tolerance, and you need more in order for it to reach that same level of happiness. Now, in that same sense, if you block out any potential pain, if you ignore life's challenges, you're essentially going to prevent yourself. You're essentially going to increase your quote unquote baseline for happiness. And you're going to demand so much stimulation.
Interesting.
That
all right,
happiness is.
I'm not sure about the psychology behind that, but definitely, we talk about a relative level of happiness, hedonic treadmill.
Yes.
100% that people who served in a war have different stressors, different levels of, they actually they have psychological studies on this. Your stressors, if you're put in a constantly stressed environment, small stresses aren't going to stress you as much as something bigger.
Right.
So, the people with very little stress get very stressed about something that we would think is not such a big deal. Mm-hmm. But what if you're doing something that you truly, truly hate? And I don't think a lot of us do this. Something that we truly, truly hate, but we have to do. For example, me talking to you. No, I'm kidding. Maybe you talking to your girlfriend. I'm kidding.
It's been one day, bro. It's been one day.
Yeah. Look, she's taking you from me. But at the same time, I love your girlfriend.
I love my girlfriend too, very much.
But when we do things we truly hate, so our objective with this happiness Excel sheet would to be things with lower happiness ratings we remove entirely, unless they're perhaps part of the social tax, which we cannot. And we have to minimize those tasks, right? What about finding new things that have a high happiness score?
Finding new things that,
How much should we focus on finding new things that give us happiness rather than finding happiness in the things that we have? For example,
like
I
putting
think
yourself out there, right? Essentially.
I think a lot of people can find happiness in their job. If you're running a mile, there's a lot of ways where you could just find happiness. Okay, I'm going to be fit.
Or I just finished running a mile.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you could just be happy, right? What if you just stopped running and you started swimming? Now that's another aspect of time allocation.
Putting yourself out there.
See, this is the problem. I think that
going from going on a hike with a friend of yours and then a girl, saying I'll never move on if you die, something like that. I would never say anything like that, but
yeah. But what I'm trying to get at is sort of that. I think we're trying to over optimize, maybe.
Over optimize.
And this could be our last point. We're trying to over optimize, and that could lead to. I mean, if we are trying to optimize happiness and we're doing it overly, we're doing it well.
Well, I think over optimization is definitely a thing, because also over optimization leads to burnout, right? And then you have to start all the way from square one.
That's not good optimization then. Oh, well, good people can optimize their rest. So.
Oh, that's true.
So perhaps putting in too much is just burnout.
I mean, in that case, there's no such thing as over optimization.
Yeah, there would just be better and better, more accurate optimization.
But then, but I think people can push it too far.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
They can push their...
No, they perceive themselves to be optimizing, but in reality, they're just heading on the opposite end of the curve. I think that's probably a good definition for over optimization, right?
So they think they're
It's like our friend Taiwan. I'm going to get rid of 4 hours of sleep and work instead. Guys, I'm optimizing. No, bruh.
Well, he's just not optimizing well because he's not efficiently taking in his rest.
Yeah, well, he thinks that there's no like diminishing returns on stuff like that. So
Yeah, he's also constantly caffeinated.
yeah, that is true. You know, I was going to Walgreens and he said me look for the army grade caffeine gum. What?
Drugs are bad, I think.
They are. Look at the camera. Raise your right hand up and say, I, Lohith Desari, think that drugs are bad.
I think drugs are.
Now look at the camera. Look at the camera in the eye.
I think drugs are bad.
Thank you. That wasn't so hard, was it?
Yeah. Well, I think we had a wonderful, wonderful episode today, Shrutik.
Wait, but we didn't get to the main point. So, lessons learned, kids. Before we shut down the podcast, attempt to optimize your happiness. Take care of yourself.
Balance in all things.
Balance. Never go to one extreme. If you start feeling lethargic while you're working because you chose to sleep 6 hours instead of 7, get that 7th hour of sleep.
Yeah. And if anyone's depressed,
please get help.
DM me.
You're not a psychologist.
I'm kidding.
He can't help you. If you're depressed, please call the National Suicide Hotline, 1-800-273-8255.
If you're not depressed, DM me.
Yeah. What's your Instagram?
Lohith.Desari.
Great. So that's pretty much it. Pretty much just work as hard as you can, but make sure you take care of yourself while you're doing it. School sucks. We call it a social tax, but we just got to take care of business sometimes.
Yeah.
And
pursue stoicism. Understand what, take aspects of philosophies, do things, find balance in philosophies. Know what's best for you. It's all subjective. Different strokes for different folks.
Exactly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for checking out this extra special episode. Make sure to check us out on all of our platforms. That's at TeamPhalafel on both Twitter and Instagram. You can email us. We get lots of fan mail, but we'll make sure to get to yours.
Dude, too much fan mail.
Too much, but you know what?
Bro.
That's a good problem to have.
Bro, I had to get 2 mailboxes. Have you ever seen someone with 2 mailboxes?
Dude, I went outside, bro. I'm like, why you got 2 mailboxes?
I know, too much falafel fan mail, dog.
Exactly. But and guess what? We read all of them.
We read every single one. No matter how much you send, we're gonna respond.
Exactly. So you can send us, you can contact us at teamfalafel@gmail.com. You can also shoot us a DM on Instagram. And we'll get to you. So that's pretty much it. Any last shout outs, words?
Nah.
All right.
One day we're gonna get our boy on Taiwan here.
Yeah, we are. You guys are gonna meet him.
Yeah.
Very interesting guy. All right.
See ya.
Peace out, everyone.
Thank you.
The odds to quit chasing and look for something better, but the smile that she shows makes me a go-getter.